With me is Ukrainian lawmaker, Madam Yulia. She is also a member of India-Ukraine Parliamentary Group. It's a friendship parliamentary group, and she, of course, will be speaking to WION on the big visit. The Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be traveling to Ukraine. He will be here in Ukraine on a Friday. Essentially, how do you see his visit as to Ukraine?
I see it a very positive signal for all Ukrainians because we are very upset about his visit to Putin and to Kremlin during the missile attack of Ukraine, because it was it was the same day, and it was a bad feeling in Ukraine that Russia is to attract more attention than Ukraine. But I think it will be a very good visit. We are happy to host him. Narendra Modi in Ukraine, and we're happy to host him also in Parliament if he will have enough time during his visit.
So do you plan him to invite to the Parliament and address?
We're already invited, but we don't know his schedule yet, so that's why we don't know if he can come.
So you have invited him to address the Parliament, correct?
Yes, we invited him to address the Parliament.
Okay. Ma'am, essentially, if we talk about the visit, India's policy on the war has been on dialogue and diplomacy. India has been saying a solution cannot come on the battlefield. What's your assessment about the Indian policy?
I think sometimes we want India to be more, more on some side, to pick up this side. But we understand that India is a big country. Historically, India has and had relations with Soviet Union, not with Russia, but with Soviet Union, and a Soviet Union sentiment still in India. So, but Russia is not a Soviet Union. We also, Ukraine was a part of Soviet Union. And we had a lot of business and a lot of connections with India. We built first university in India, so we actually sent a lot of specialists for the education and for the medical services in India. A lot of Ukrainians went to India to help to build a healthcare system and also technical education. So we have a lot of connections with India, and we want India to understand that we are an independent country, and we are happy to be friends with India and happy to help India and India to help us. We understand that India's policy more neutral, and they're trying to still have relations with Russia, both, and with Ukraine. We admit it; it's a fact. But we want also, and Narendra Modi is a very powerful man, inside India and outside India. So he is like to face of the global south at some point of time. But I think he can push and convince Putin to stop the war, honestly.
India, of course, has been providing humanitarian support to Ukraine. It has been keen on also reconstruction efforts here in Ukraine. How do you see India's humanitarian support?
We are very grateful. We really received a lot of humanitarian aid from India and from help from India. So we are very grateful as a nation. In a very difficult times, India sent us humanitarian support. And we also see a lot of efforts of India to help us in a different area. And I hope that India will join the club of reconstruction of Ukraine after our victory. So because India has a lot of specialists in construction, in engineering, and many other fields. So I think we can find common projects and for rebuilding Ukraine. So I hope India will take a look and will very much invite it for the reconstruction efforts in Ukraine.
India Connect, your India Connect, if you can talk about it, something that our viewers would be surprised in terms of knowing that about a Ukrainian MP having such a strong India Connect.
Yes, I have a daughter-in-law who is Indian girl, and my son married her a few years ago, and we have a big Indian family in Kerala. So now we are very much connected, and I'm traveling a lot to India and know a lot of your people.
In terms of the India Connect, what is that thing in India that you look forward to? I believe yoga is quite popular here in this country, and Jimmy Jimmy has a strong connect. Everyone sings Jimmy Jimmy at least once a month, I feel so.
We actually have Indian restaurants. We have a lot of people who would like to visit India in Ayurveda resorts, and after the war, I mean, and before the war, we had a lot of people who would like to travel and see India. So I see a lot of potential in tourism, both sides. Indian come to us, and we are going to India. We have a lot of cultural connections. We have a lot of Indian diaspora in Ukraine, and even outside Ukraine. So a lot of Indian students before the war came to Ukraine to get education, medical, healthcare education, and different kind of education in Ukraine. At the start of the full-scale invasion, we had 18,000 Indian students. And that's why we have a lot of, and some of them stay in Ukraine, and they are still in Ukraine, and they have families in Ukraine. So we are, I mean, in terms of education, culture, we have a lot of already a lot of established contacts, but I think we need to think more about the economic business connections, and we have also business diaspora in Ukraine, who have businesses in Ukraine who are trading with India, exporting, importing, and I think this connection should be developed further. And also I think that we need to bring more Ukrainian culture to India to show our culture, and you will see it even similar with Indian culture. And I hope that next time I will travel to India, I will bring some interesting collections from Ukraine to show to you Indians.
And few lines of Jimmy Jimmy, if you would like, for our viewers.
Yeah, but I mean, I cannot say that we are big fans of Indian pop culture, but still we have a lot. And I mean, Ukrainians very open, and I think they are very similar to Indians, so they like open and interesting culture. So.
Ma'am, my last question to you is, I do not know the agenda, neither you know the agenda of Prime Minister's visit. It is secret given the situation here. But if you manage to meet the Prime Minister, what will you tell him, that one line, that if you are able to have that one conversation with him here in Kyiv?
I would like to tell him that we are a very peaceful nation. We are protecting our land and our homes against aggression. And I would like to ask him to put all his efforts into peaceful efforts, and to convince Mr. Putin to leave our land and our homes so we can live peacefully again. We are not aggressors. We are not happy with the war, but unfortunately we are invaded. So we would like to ask Mr. Modi to put his influence, really big influence, into the peaceful effort, and to convince Putin leave our country.
Well, on that note, thank you so much, ma'am, for speaking to WION. That was the message by Madam Yulia, and of course, the upcoming visit of PM Modi. With video journalist Neeraj Patel, Siddhant Sibal for WION in Kyiv, Ukraine.